hire good people and partner quick, strategically structure your partners with good partners that you trust and that trust you.
So good.
Welcome to another episode of The Financially Free Investor, where you will learn information and strategies on how to become financially independent by investing in real estate, something that is not taught openly in our society today. Financial freedom matters so you can live a bigger life, retire early, and do what matters most to you. Get ready to hear tried and true methods to becoming financially free with your host, Jordy Clark.
All right, everyone, welcome into another episode of the Financially Free Investor podcast. Today, I have a guest, Matt Amabile, on with me. I think I saw you on like a GoBundance video and you had DM'd me at like the same time or something. So welcome in.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's good to connect, man. We haven't even talked before today, but we're gonna rip through this. You're coming on my pod, I'm going on yours, and love to talk this stuff all day, bro.
Just a couple podcasters talking podcasting.
Dude, that's the way to do it, man. That's right.
Yeah, cool. Well, dude, you kind of gave me some high level stuff before we started recording, but tell me about your story. You're a young dude, financially free. How'd you get there?
Yeah, man. 25 years old and just traveling the world right now. I'm doing this podcast from Paris, and it all really started from having a money mindset when I was younger. I chose not to go to really expensive schools and rack up a ton of debt. I went to schools where I could get basically full scholarships to go there. Started studying, came out of school, did really well in school, got out of school, found myself making $55,000 a year, sleeping on my cousin's couch, wasn't making the money I wanted to make, didn't want to pay rent. So I started studying personal finance, found the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, found out about real estate, dove all in, bought something called a house hack, which I'm sure your listeners know about. And, that was my first real estate purchase. Then I started buying more real estate after that, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, commercial buildings after that. And, got to the point where I'm at today with around $7,000 a month in passive income. I don't spend much when I'm living at home. I spend around $3,500 a month. So it was at the point where I could just quit my job and get the hell out, man.
That's awesome. So what were you doing? What spurred the impetus of you quitting a job at 25 and traveling the world?
Man, I mean, it was really that book that was like Rich Dad Poor Dad. You create passive income and you can live off of it. You could create that life for yourself. And I just saw that. So right out of college, if I backtrack a little bit, I took a European trip, and for a month and a half, I traveled Europe, and I spent around $5,000 for my first month there. So when I got back to the States, I had this $5,000 credit card bill, which I did all this to pay off. Like I sold my car, got money back to pay that off. But anyway, I saw that I could travel to Europe with $5,000 a month. So I was like, if I can just create $5,000 a month or save up $60,000, that would make a year of traveling in Europe for me. So my premise was like, let me create $5,000 a month. How could I do it? Let me learn about personal finance. Found real estate, got in, and I've worked in sales. To answer your question, I've worked in sales since I was 18 years old, maybe even like 16, 15 years old with the different types of jobs I've had. Worked logistics sales, jumped like 6 months later. So I was making 55K, jumped to a different logistics sales job, jumped my income up to 80K. 6 months later, jumped to another logistics sales job and jumped my income up to 110K. I had no loyalty towards the companies I was working for, man. Just wanted to make money, make enough so I could save more and invest more, buy more real estate, build more passive income, and get out of the job.
Love it. So you looked at, and I like that because a lot of people, they might have the mindset of, well, making 50, 55, 60 grand, whatever it is. And I'm good with that. Right. But you had the mentality of, hey, let me jump ship and maybe go to a different company where I can make double. Just knowing personal finance, you probably lived on about the same and then just invested that, right? Like, I think there's two mentalities out there in personal finance, and one of them, and it's not bad, they're just different, right? But one of them's like the Dave Ramsey mentality of, pay everything off, no debt, which is fine, but what you focus on expands. And if that's what you focus on, that's what you're going to get, versus figuring out a way of how can I increase my income to create passive income, right? And maybe that's the Robert Kiyosaki version. Have you played the cash flow game?
I haven't played the cash flow game, the rat race game in there, but I think I played it online for like a little bit. It's just I was like, I already know these concepts, man. I'm not gonna play a game. I'm just going and I'm gonna get this stuff done in real life,
Yeah. Yeah. There you
But
go.
yeah, man, I fully on with you there. Like Dave Ramsey's got some good stuff if you're trying to get out of debt. He's right in a way that you don't want bad debt, but there's good debt and bad debt. You've got debt that creates income for you, and then you've got debt that's going to take income from you. And I always want to focus on creating income and not taking income.
So good. Let's jump into your real estate journey. You had mentioned that you started with single family houses and then went all the way up into commercial. Where were you living? What were you buying when you first started?
So I started actually my first property was a house hack. That was a 4-unit, and that was a solid property. It's in New Jersey. All my properties right now are within 5 minutes of walking distance from this initial property that I bought. So
was
in
that
a town. What's that?
Oh, I was going to ask, was that strategic or did it just happen that way?
It's just easier that way, man. I can manage all my, because I was doing all the management when I was in town. It's easy enough to walk to a property, see what's going on. My tenants knew me back then, and now I'm not managing the properties per se, but I still live in that house hack, and that thing was a huge wealth creator. Like just for me, it was a 4-unit property. Condemned, like complete renovation. It took a year and a half to complete this during COVID. Had people there was people breaking in at one point. 3 contractors dropped. Huge learning lessons throughout this whole thing. But now this property creates me every single month. It brings in around $3,800, and my expenses on it are $2,104. So that property alone nets me like $1,700, and I get to live there for free. So that was like the ultimate. Take out your biggest expense, which is housing, and give you a ton more income on the cash flow side. Allowed me to, one, use that as a showcase to other investors, show them, look at what I did here, come partner with me and we can go do more of this. And then it was also just like, I got more money coming in every month. I can do this with 3, 4, 5 properties. I could be out of my job.
Yeah, love it. So how much did you pay for the fourplex?
That fourplex was, this is interesting. So it was up for 125. I bid 155 and I did not get it. And then like months later, the bank came back and it was a foreclosure. And they said, the buyer backed out. Do you want it for 155? I said, yes. So I went into contract at 155. Then I took them down to 145 later, like 2 months later, because closings got delayed because of COVID. So I got it for 145, and my renovation came in around 110, and that was a FHA 203K loan. So everything was coupled in on one loan. I only had to pay 3.5% of that total renovation and acquisition cost to buy that thing.
So you're like 255, 260 all in.
Right.
And then the 3 units total rent for 3,800.
3 units total 3,800, right?
So you
And
could
it'll
rent that out, like when you're traveling, say in Paris, and probably make an extra $1,500 for that unit.
Right. So I actually am doing just that right now. And over the past, I have it on Airbnb. So even like when I'm in town staying at my apartment, I will Airbnb it out and I'll go sleep at my mom lives 20 minutes away. My girlfriend is 5 minutes away. I'll go sleep at her place. And while I've been here in Paris for a month and a half, it's made me 4 grand. So like Airbnb it's kill the apartment this month will make me around 6 grand, like
Mm,
just from renting out on Airbnb and my long-term tenant. So one building is like that's my literally what saves me, man. It
yeah.
allows me to live for free when I'm living in town, and it allows me to live for free when I'm out here. Because like I also travel hack. So my Airbnb out here in Paris for a month, and this isn't actually the one that I've been staying in. I had some issues getting to Barcelona. I leave tomorrow now. I had to get a different Airbnb. But for a month, my Airbnb in Paris, center of Paris, cost me $1,700. So like I actually made money not living in my own apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. It sounds a lot like the Tim Ferriss 4 Hour Work Week, kind of what he did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's like exactly the model where I'm trying to go with it, you know?
Sweet. So you buy the first fourplex, you get it fixed up. What next?
So after that, obviously, well, I mean the value of that thing is great now. That thing's it's worth 400 grand and I'm all in on that 260. But after that, I used that fourplex, the cash flow from that, because it was the rent to price ratio in my town was just ridiculous for anything you could find in New Jersey, and it was an untapped area. So I started going out to other investors and showing them like, look at what we could do in this area. I found one investor who was willing to come in. He had a lot of capital. He didn't care about cash flow. He had enough cash flow. He cared about the tax advantages from real estate and from the appreciation that we would see in properties. So I would go find properties that had around a 20 to 30% discount as it sits and it's already rented out. It doesn't need renovations. I would find those properties, bring them to him. We would split the purchase of it. So I would put 50% of my cash down. He would put 50% of the cash needed down. He would put the other 50% down. I would manage the property, but I would take all of the cash flow out of that property. So that was my next step towards building cash flow and being able to do that. Now with this partner, I can get as much cash flow as buying a building myself, but I only have to put half as much down. So I could buy buildings 2 times quicker.
So is he, because there's got to be a benefit in it for him, and I think I know what it is, but is he taking all of the depreciation if you're taking all of the cash flow?
So he wasn't even taking all the depreciation. Like we were just running the depreciation through our LLC that had all like that own that asset. So
Yeah.
he was looking at that as a long-term strategy that's what he would do it for. Mainly his reason for coming in is I would come to him with a $220,000 valued building right now as it sits, and we would be buying it for 160,000, and it's
Hmm.
already rented, it's cash flowing, it's not going to lose him money. So he would buy in, we would either refinance and he would get his cash out, or the end plan was for me to buy him out of that real estate. So he was just buying in. After we bought 4 properties together, and 8 months later, I ended up buying him out of all that real estate. He made a good multiple on his money. I think all in, he had 45 grand into our deals. And within 8 months of that, he got 100 grand back out of those deals.
Hmm.
So, he was looking at it from, why would I not buy this undervalued asset right now, even if I'm not going to take cash flow on it for a while? We didn't even have like set operating procedures. It really comes down to with partners, one, do they trust the deal? And two, do they trust you to do what's in their best interest? And he did. And he gave me a shot and we made it happen.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And, I think for a lot of people listening, they may be thinking, how on earth did you hit financial freedom so young, right? Because usually, there's a lot of stuff we tell ourselves, but you're over here, debunking a lot of these myths. Like you can do real estate with less money down. Yeah, you're a great example of that, right? Like there's a lot of different ways you can structure deals if you get along with a partner and make it a win-win.
Right. Completely agree with that. And two sides there. Like, if you find a good partner and you're trustworthy and you can work with your partner, you could structure good deals for yourself. And like, some guys just have a ton of cash sitting around and maybe they don't want to go put it somewhere where they could only make 10%. Maybe they want to put it where, they know they'll make 20%, 30% when they sell out in a year or whatever it is. And then on the other side of it, so you got the partner side, but then you have the deal side. Like, just find stupid discounts on deals and you can go buy whatever real estate. Like, the only real estate I've actually 100% purchased was that fourplex. And then I bought some single families after that. So these single families were like people that I had built relationships with, that one sold me a property for $53,000, partially seller finance, partially subject to, so a little bit of creative financing there. But that was valued at, like, literally at the time I bought it, it valued at $135,000. So I was able to refinance out of that so quick, get him his money back. I bought another one that was valued at 140, and I bought it for 65,000. It's just finding stupid good deals. If I wanted to bring people in on those, I could have.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to. I wanted to buy that for myself because, one, it wasn't a lot out of my pocket, and two, I would be able to refinance to get that money out quick. And then, I just want to hit on this. The next deal was like boom for me, right? So like, this is a 6-unit property, my first commercial building, and it's a $700,000 purchase, 600,000 plus 100 in renovation, which was the biggest thing that I had ever gotten into in my life. And I was able to bring other investors in on that gave me 50% ownership of that property. And I actually didn't bring a dollar down to buy that. You go from needing a bunch of money to buy your first property to needing half the money to buy your next properties that you were partnering on, to literally having that resume of what you've done and being able, because of the deal and because of your experience, to bring people in and not even put a dollar down to buy these things and own half of that building.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's kind of the progression of a full-time real estate investor, right? Is, you kind of build a track record and then you're able to do more deals with less and less of your own capital if you choose. Or like you said, you can keep doing it all yourself. Just depends on what your goals are and how you want to scale. So what was next after the 6-unit?
So that 6-unit was my last deal that I bought. And now with those same partners, we've got an accepted offer on a portfolio, a $4.5 million offer accepted on that. So we are now going through contracting on that and waiting for that to go through and basically do the same exact thing. I don't know exactly what the structure is going to be on that. I don't even care. I am in the mindset right now of, I want to make this deal go through. I want to make these investors happy. And then I'm going to have these discussions once these contracts are finalized and things are going. But as long as I could get everybody in place, things can rock. So the reason that they're willing to do that with me is that 6-unit was, it was all in on that 700,000. And that was within 6 months, it was valued at 1.3 million. So we were able to cash out and take out, we're going through a refinance right now, but we're going to have around 280 grand, 300 grand check coming to us that basically came from nothing, you know. We just bought a building. I did the work. I managed the deal, managed the tenants, got the tenants placed, stabilized it, and now we've got a big check coming our way. So they saw that, they put their trust in me, and now I can go do bigger stuff with them. As long as this deal goes through, man, it'll be a huge one for me.
Sounds like you got a lot of cool stuff on the horizon. I assume you've quit your sales job.
Oh yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, dude, quitting was so freeing, man. A little bit nerve-wracking. Like I was like, I don't know how this is all going to play out, but I saw my passive income and I wanted to test it. So I was actually traveling before I even left my job. I was probably working like 1 hour a week at this job. Just didn't care. I was making 150K, like putting in minimal work, and I just wasn't going to work until hopefully they fired me. Honestly, I wanted to get fired so I could collect unemployment after that. Didn't end up getting fired, but I went on a month-long trip to Oregon. Wasn't working at all while I was there. Came back a week later. I was leaving for Puerto Rico for a month, and my boss got switched to another one of my coworkers that I actually liked and respected, and I just had to be honest with him, tell him, I was like, I don't do anything, dude, and like, where do we want to take this? And he was like, it's probably just best if you're out of this job. So I left the job, Puerto Rico the next week, stayed there for a month, and that was really the test of like, all right, does this passive income stuff work? And since then, my savings have only increased from what I had at that time. And I, even after paying out my partner around 40 grand out of pocket to buy him out of all the real estate that I had with him.
That jumps us, I think, to, and we can fill in gaps if I'm incorrect, but now you got a podcast. Now you're traveling the world on your passive income.
Hell yeah, man. I got a podcast, Financial Freedom Fast podcast, all about, reducing expenses, different tips, tricks, and ways that we can keep our expenses low and build our passive income. So I bring guys like you on my podcast to show us how to build that income, and how we can do that for ourselves. There's also travel tips, like staying at an Airbnb for a month at a time rather than a week at a time, because you stay for a month at a time, you can get 70% discounts on Airbnbs, which a lot of people don't even know because they don't consider doing that,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, just working on keeping my expenses where they need to be right now, and then also planning for the future, getting ready to build up my income even greater with some more acquisitions and different businesses that I got going on.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And what I like most about what you're doing is like you're setting yourself up. Your foundation is freaking awesome because you've got no kids right now. You're not married. Like now is the time that you can take some time to, really figure out what you want this next chapter. I think a lot of times, at least in school, we're brought up that like, hey, you go to college, you get good grades, you graduate, you get this fancy degree, and then you're going to do this thing in life. Right. And then you're going to retire and you're going to go do whatever. Right. And I totally disagree with that because I'm way more driven by lifestyle and like living now. But also like you change, right? So the 25-year-old version of me is totally different than what the 35-year-old version is going to be, right? Which is different than the 45-year-old. And I hope that as I go through my life and that it's constantly evolving and leveling up, right? And I'm becoming and I'm growing into a bigger person. And, kind of like, dude, the David Osborne of 20 years ago isn't the David Osborne of today, right? So just thinking about your next chapter, right? As you step into, like you can take some time now because you're not worrying about finances because you've got passive income coming in and, you filter stuff differently once you hit that financial freedom mark. Because all of a sudden, dude, it's just like, I don't know if you felt this, but it's just like a weight kind of gets lifted off your shoulder and you're like, what do I really want to do? You know, like, I guess I don't have to go to work next month if I don't choose to. So, well, but I'm young. I still want to do it. Like, what am I going to do?
Right. Right, man. It's like, what the hell do I want to do with all of this time? Because I have all of this time to do whatever I want to do. And there is a problem with that, because when you have all this time to do whatever you want to do, you could do nothing, and you could sit there and you could relax and stay on a beach. And that doesn't keep you growing. That doesn't keep you moving. So it's been a big influencer for me of tapping into my spiritual self, feeling myself, feeling what I actually want out of life. What relationships do I want? What experiences do I want? What things do I want to do? There's three main pillars. And I saw this diagram when I was like probably 16 years old. There's three things that you have in life, and in each stage of your life, most people only have two of them. So you have time, energy, and money. When you're young, you've got time and energy, but you don't have money. When you are in the middle age, you've got money and energy, but you don't have time. And then when you're old, you have time and money, but you don't have energy. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I need the money now. And like, if you don't need a ton of money to go do these experiences, like, all right, let's just figure out how to create however much money I need every single month to go do these amazing things, so I can do that now. Like, I could, being like in this spiritual area has made me realize, like, I could die next month. Am I happy with what I'm doing today if I die tomorrow? And I mean, I'm just trying to live an all out life, bro. Like, have fun right now, right here. And yes, not having kids, not having like even a significant other that's like very locked down. If you can just keep yourself free and out here. The most lockdown I have right now, I've got a dog. She's back here sleeping on a bed. I bring her to all over the world with me. And that's what is my only responsibility. It's me and my dog. If you can keep your responsibilities that low and you can create income, you can literally do whatever you want to do.
No, I love it. And, just thinking about the trifecta, time, energy, money, right? The first question I have is like, hey man, as I go through my life, I'm young, I'm middle-aged, I'm old. How do I keep all three? Right? Because like, I don't want to be, well, how about I've got a really good friend who I also met through GoBundance, and we've just become great friends. But dude, he is almost, I should ask him what his age is, but he's like going into his 50s. And the dude can smoke me on a mountain bike. He can smoke me hiking. Like, he is physically on top of his game, right? Yeah. And he's like, come on, man, keep up. Like, and I'm over here like, holy cow, I thought I was fit, but there's levels to it. And, I kind of look at him as an example, because he kind of has that trifecta, right? Like, ton of passive income, got really good health, got really good energy, and he's got all the time he wants to dedicate to what he wants because of his passive income, right? And I love that you say that trifecta, because it reminds me, even, having, like, this is almost episode 100. And it just reminds me that that's why financial freedom is important. Right. And some people may be listening to this and they're like, oh, well, but I have 2 kids and I have this and I have that. Well, you can choose to focus on that, or you can choose to focus on the message, which is increase your passive income, because that gives you options. And then, as you maintain your expenses, control your expenses, and increase your income and invest the difference, that's the formula, right? That's the
Right.
formula for time freedom. That's the formula for financial freedom. That's the formula for health freedom, because now all of a sudden you're not subjugated to go sit in a cubicle for 9-10 hours a day, 100
Right.
hours a week, whatever it is. Right. So, man, I love
Dude,
that.
and that's like the people who are saying that, the people who are saying, oh man, I would love to do that, but I have kids. That should make you want to do it even more. Like, you've got these kids, you've got these people. That was literally my number one reason for doing this now, was so when I'm that age and I have the kids, I can go spend all my time with them. But like, now you have all these expenses, and your expenses are only going to go up as probably as they get older. So like, let's start focusing on this stuff now and wrangle this in. So one, I can have more time to spend with the children that I have, because I want to have them in my life. I want them to love the life when they are growing up, and like, let them live life. And yeah, man, like, focus on health. Like, if you're saying like, I can't wait till I'm retired when I'm older so I can go travel the world. When you're older and you're tired and maybe you're not in good health because you haven't had the time freedom to be able to go to the gym as much as you want to do, like, you can't do cool stuff. Like yesterday, I climbed to the top of the Eiffel Tower, and like, there was old people who were having a tough time getting up there, and old people at the bottom who couldn't go all the way to the top. If I waited until I was that age, now granted, I'm very health focused. I am focused right now on keeping my health tip top shape. So when I'm 100 years old, whatever it may be, I'm still doing this stuff. But if you wait till you're that old and you don't travel and you say you're going to do it then and you can't do it, you're never going to be able to do it ever again. Like my grandma, she's got leg problems, back problems, can't do all this traveling. Like, do it now and find a way to do it now.
Love it.
Because now is the only time. I'm going off on it, man. I apologize.
No, it's a good reminder, right? Like, and you even said it earlier in the podcast, like, what happens if you pass away unexpectedly, like there was so I've got 3 young kids at home, and our expenses are higher, just
Right.
life. But there was a couple that they had bought a few rental properties. They lived in our area, and I only know about this because it hit the news. And they had a couple of really flourishing businesses. They're doing all the right things, right? And super unfortunate circumstance where someone broke into their house to rob them, and they passed away because the guy shot them, right? And super terrible. Now their kids are obviously grown up without parents, but they were saving for that future day. And I think it's always this balancing act of realizing, like, tomorrow's not promised. So, you got to live like today's your last day, but you also have to prepare as if you're never going to die. Right. For the future, because you can swing way too far the other way, where people use that as an excuse of, well, tomorrow's never given. And then all of a sudden they're in all this massive credit card debt or whatever, and they're just not making great decisions. Right. So I think it's kind of this balancing act of just trying to make sure you're, traveling when you're young, but also realizing, like, hey, the more I travel, the less I have to invest. And it can't all be investing. It can't all be travel, so somewhere everyone's got to find a happy medium for them.
And I don't even know. And I'm just going to play devil's advocate from like my beginning story. Like, so I'm traveling, right? I could be at home at my apartment, but I traveled here, and like, I paid $1,700 for the month for being here, and I got paid $4,000 for the month of my apartment. So it's actually making me money to travel and to do this stuff. And the thing I like about travel is it expands your mind. It creates all these new neural pathways for your brain to like just get bigger and bigger. Now, that is a way to expand yourself, make yourself grow. I focus on my podcast, and I don't agree with spending on things that don't actually bring you happiness. Buying the material things, buying the bags and the belts and the pants that cost, $2,000, $2,500, when that is a month in Paris, when that could go to creating something in your life that's actually going to bring you joy. So I use something that I call like a happiness matrix, right? And it's finding the areas of your life that you actually value and putting your money in those. I value my health, I value traveling, and I value experiences. So where do I spend my money? I spend my money on quality food. I spend my money on gym memberships, yoga memberships, all that type of stuff. And then I spend my money plane tickets and coming out to cool places like this. If buying those belts or whatever that is, like that's something you're really passionate about and that brings you actual sustaining happiness, then maybe that's your thing. Maybe you're a belt collector and you just love belts. But don't buy that stuff because it gives you that shot of happiness and then it does nothing for you after the fact.
Cool. Well, as we wrap up, I've got two questions I ask every guest. The first is, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently on your journey?
So I would have partnered quicker and I would have hired other people quicker. I would have brought people in to do the work and brought good people in. The reason that my renovation project, my first one, my 4-unit, took a year and a half and delayed me a year and a half. Mind you, I'm only two and a half, 3 years in my journey. I could have done this a lot quicker. That took a year and a half to finish because I hired non-quality, crappy contractors. Hire good people and partner quick, strategically structure your partners with good partners that you trust and that trust you.
So good. What's one piece of advice that you'd give someone who's just starting on their journey to financial freedom?
One piece of advice would be to keep your expenses low, man. Find that happiness matrix. Find what you actually enjoy spending money on, and that will let you key in on where your number needs to be. So there's something called the FI number, financial independence number. That's how much money you need every single month or every single year. I like to look at it as a monthly basis because it's a smaller number, but when you use your happiness matrix, you figure out, okay, I like spending money on going out to eat and I like spending money on restaurants. So then everything else, you have restaurants and what did I say? Going out to eat and I don't know, something else. Whatever it is you like doing, plus all the things that you need to pay for, your utilities, this, that will be your financial independence number. All right, so I have to spend $4,000 a month to live. All right, now go create that $4,000. So keep your expenses low, find out what your financial independence number is, and then go create that income for yourself passively. And your life is yours for the taking.
Love it. Cool. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up. What's one more plug for your podcast, the Financial Freedom Fast podcast? That's what it is, right?
Financial Freedom Fast podcast, and you can follow me on Instagram at Matt Amabile, MATTAMABILE.
Awesome. And we'll link to that. So if you guys want to follow him on social media and link to his podcast, you can go check that out and get more motivation for financial freedom.
Hell yeah, man.
Okay, cool. Well, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on, and we'll hopefully see you at a GoBundance event soon.
Appreciate you, Jordy. See you soon, brother.
See ya.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Financially Free Investor. If you found value in this episode or know someone who would find value in this information, please share with them, subscribe, and send us a review.